The suicide bomber struck in the afternoon at an Afghan Army Special Forces base at Rishkhor, 25 kilometres from Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The Taliban claim responsibility. For the last week, there has been apprehension on the streets of Kabul that the Taliban would launch a violent backlash in response to President Trump's cancellation of peace talks. So far, a major response hasn't materialised. Inside the city, one rocket landed close to the US Embassy in the Green Zone. There was little damage and no casualties. The lack of attacks is being seen by some as a positive.
They are still thinking that there is a possibility for resumption of attack. So if there are more attacks in Kabul, they will further exasperate the situation, which they do not want. It's a sign of hope for all of us that.
Trump had said the talks were dead, but Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has indicated the US is still interested in striking a deal. And the departure of the National Security Advisor John Bolton, who opposed the Taliban talks, is seen as another encouraging move. It has given hope that there will be a resumption of talks, but there is always a caveat.
Now this process can go either way. Either they will resume the peace talk, or either they will just try to double their power and go to a very harsh and deadly situation.
There is growing international pressure for the US to get back to the negotiating table, but also an expectation that any talks should include a ceasefire, and with good reason. Away from the capital, the fighting is reported to have intensified, with the US and the Afghan government forces claiming big successes against the Taliban. The Afghan army says it captured this base in Badakhshan province on Wednesday after 5 years in Taliban hands. The US claims its recent aerial bombing attacks killed 1,000 Taliban fighters in a 4-day period, and those bombardments may be affecting Taliban morale as well. In Kunar province, more than 150 Taliban and ISIL fighters have surrendered to government forces. But the civilians caught in the fighting are still paying a high price.
Many civilians are still being killed as the fighting intensifies. We have asked all sides to reduce the use of force in heavily populated areas, but they don't listen to us.
There is some hope that peace talks will be resumed, but probably not until after the forthcoming Afghan presidential elections. They've always been a catalyst for Taliban attacks and violence, but with the prospect of new talks, many here are hoping that this time it will be different. Tony Birtley, Al Jazeera, Kabul.